So I want to thank you very much for attending today's, we called it the Almost No Cook Show. We decided that it is too hot outside, so this is now the No Cook Show. I'm Maryellen Burns. I want to introduce my partners for today, Kimberly Graham. And Kimberly can talk about herself. We're all mic'd a little bit, but she is my writing partner, cooking instructor. We do a lot of programs together. And today, Linda Jane is a member of the Renaissance Society and also works with us at something called a Cook's Tour of Sacramento, which we love, and has agreed to be the assistant today. So we have me, I guess we're going to call me chef or El Jefe, sous chef, and prep cook. One of the reasons that we're cooking together is that we think it's more fun when we all work together. So we suggest that you do a lot of these on your own. And if we can go to the next slide. Because I want to thank people. This is a little bit of what we're making today. We're going to be making a gazpacho. You'll see that we have a watermelon and cucumber salad. It's not what we listed before. And we want to thank especially ACC for letting us do these shows here, and thank you for being able to attend in person, but especially Tom Herzog. Tom Herzog is a farmer, a bookseller from the Delta. He provided the bounty that we have for you today, and you're going to see more of it. This all came from his garden. I also have a lot of stuff we might not use today, but the idea of this program is everything that we have came out of my fridge, my pantry, my garden got neglected because I forgot to pick the basil, or came from Tom. The idea is to use whatever you have on hand and not to have to go shopping. So the ingredients, the most important thing is whatever ingredients you have, and we have some recipes that we will send to you if you'd like, but the idea is whatever is in your fridge or pantry that needs to be used up, overabundance, if you go to the farmer's market or if you go to a food bank, just figure out some creative ways of being able to use it. These are some of the ingredients that we're using today. So we have zucchini and we have cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, peppers, garlic, hot peppers. We have some radishes. We're using up some cottage cheese, some sour cream, burrata. Again, this is just all stuff that I had. And my brother goes to, we shouldn't plug them, he goes to a store that's cut rate and he buys some of the strangest things. This is one of them, Chipotle salsa crema. There's 8 cans of this at my house. He has an avocado cream. 12 bottles of this in my house. All of them have dates that you're supposed to use them by, so we're going to try to use these up. That's why we're not going to be following much recipes. And next slide. Thank you. This isn't my pantry, as Kimberly can tell you, because my pantry is always kind of a mess. But there are some things that you just want to have in your pantry that you can always cook with, and everybody's a little different. I'm going to ask Kimberly, what's always in your pantry?
Definitely vinegars, spices. I love spices, and they range from the least sort of innocuous, sort of like the salt and pepper, to very Moroccan or Ethiopian spices that are also in my cabinet. And sometimes I blend my own thing, and I come up with different ways of, giving new taste to foods.
Great. And how about you, Linda?
Well, I have some of the same spices that probably both of you have. One spice that I put together is a Stay Healthy seasoning, and it's about 28 different herbs and spices that I go to the Whole Foods store and buy in bulk so I can buy what I need. And it changes the flavor, but when I sprinkle a little in almost everything that I cook, I feel like I'm staying healthier.
Great. Good. And the point is we all have different kinds of tastes, so we're going to suggest that you season to taste. You might like things spicier, you might not like spice at all, so just spice it for you, but you can always leave a little something on the table for people to spice up themselves. And also, just some hints. If you always have a stock of staple cooking ingredients on hand to give flexibility, you'll be able to create new dishes and tweak them as needed. and I know I have things. So here's the most important thing, and we have people in the audience, so we're going to ask you to say things. Take stock of what you have and create potential dishes you can make. I am one of those list makers, so every week I take a look at my pantry and I mark off all the different dishes that I can make with what I've got on hand, and I hope that that's what I'm going to cook with that week. When I make it, I cross it off. I have to tell you, I don't like repeating things. I'm one of those people that when I grew up, it was like you had spaghetti on Mondays and you had fish sticks on Fridays. We had the same thing every week. For me, I like a lot of variety. So we came up with some different things that we could do today. You'll notice I don't have all of these ingredients with us. So we'll go to the next slide and show you what we came up with. So ideas. One of the things that we can make is a Greek salad with tomatoes, no celery because my celery was bad, onions and feta cheese. We had a thing, I have to tell you that Kimberly and I had a thing. Could I go to the store? I didn't have some things that were on this menu and we decided no, it had to be out of my fridge. So what I brought instead was some burrata cheese and some Gruyere cheese, and we're going to try that instead. We can make gazpacho. There's a dish that I grew up with called farmer's chop suey that we'll talk about later. Tzatziki, which is cucumber and usually dill and sour cream. We can come up with, we had said watermelon in feta and basil. Instead, it's going to be a watermelon cucumber salad with balsamic vinegar. And tomatoes with burrata cheese and basil. Again, we're not going to make that today. We brought some salsa that I had in my fridge. When we're all done, that's one of the things that we can make with the leftovers. Do you have some suggestions from the ingredients that we have? If you were making this at home, Kimberly, what would you make?
There's a variety of things I make. Definitely salads with the peppers, the cucumbers, the tomatoes. I would also entertain a soup, a cold soup like a gazpacho, or more creamier soup like the tomato. So even on a hot day, you can have a warm, creamy tomato soup with a nice grilled cheese sandwich. And you're challenging me. So
good. And how about you, Linda? Anything
well,
you can
I'm
think
looking
of?
at this and I'm thinking of a dish that my grandmother used to make that I love to make when I have an abundance of tomatoes and zucchini, and I like to put celery in it and onions, and it's like a succotash, I think is what she called it. And so you cook it and let everything cook down, and you have the tomato that kind of has juice, and it takes me back, and I love it.
Good. So we have a few people in the audience. Do you guys want to call out anything you can think of you'd make with our ingredients?
Salad.
Salad. Anything else? Mm-hmm. Hopefully you're going to be inspired once we get started. We're going to start with the gazpacho, and I have to tell you, thank you. So there's always a story behind everything I do. This is a ninja. Again, sorry for an ad. I have my Oster over there. I got a lot of presents for Christmas that I've never used. This is almost more powerful than I can imagine, and I can never figure out the release. So I'm going to guide Kimberly to making it, if it's okay, and switch places with her. And one of the things that I'm going to ask Linda for is to start taking our tomatoes and taking the end stem out and cutting them into quarters.
And
so
how big would you like those, or how
in
small?
quarters.
Quarters, okay.
Great.
Really
And then what I'm going to ask Kimberly to do is she's going to try it. Normally, we peel tomatoes before we do a gazpacho.
we would blanch it quickly.
We would blanch them quickly, and I don't know if it's going to work. Can you try just peeling a couple?
Let's do this.
And see if you can do that way. So have you guys had a gazpacho before? Gazpacho is an Andalusian dish. It usually is made, a lot of people make it with tomato juice. You notice that I don't have any tomato juice. It's because I didn't have any with me. So we're going to end up just using tomatoes from the garden. Oftentimes you would peel it. I'm just going to have her show you how she's peeling, but we're not going to go, you don't need to peel it. We're going to do it with the peels in it because it's just even healthier.
Right.
We did wash everything beforehand. You'll notice that we have a lot of ingredients that are going to go into this already. We've done some pre-cutting. They'll be doing some more. This is called, you want to pronounce it for me, mise en place?
Mise en place.
And that means getting everything done ahead of time. I'm the kind of cook that likes cutting and chopping, and we're going to have you do quite a few more.
Okay.
I like cutting and chopping at the same time because I'm a fast cook. I want to be in and out of the kitchen. It's because I spent so many years as a caterer where I spent 12, 18 hours in a kitchen. Now, if I can do it in 20 minutes, I will. But I'll oftentimes prep things the night before and put them into a glass container so that it's all ready. And when I'm hungry, I can just make something fairly easy. So we're going to have them do some tomatoes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to process some of the tomatoes first, and then we're going to add our other vegetables. And what we have in here is some green pepper, which we just kind of rough chopped. We washed our hands. We wash our hands.
We're very
We
sanitary,
tested to make
yes.
sure we don't have COVID. I have to
Yes.
tell you that. There's green peppers and all of that. We're going to process the tomatoes a little bit first and then start adding. We're going to do this in 2 bunches.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
From a culinary standpoint, do you seed or de-seed before you gazpacho?
All right, so I will tell you that
Same thing with your
if I
cucumber.
was cooking professionally and someone was paying me a lot of money, like the old days, I seeded.
Yeah.
Now that I'm cooking for myself, I figure the seeds are healthy,
Yeah.
right?
They
But
sometimes don't translate well, but yeah.
yeah, sometimes they can be really bitter, so you want to taste beforehand. So what we're going to do is cut these into, if we can have you into 8s, and then Kimberly is going to go ahead, and she is going to pulse the tomatoes first,
Let me grab my.
and she's going to do that. And then we're going to be adding some of the other vegetables. The other thing about gazpacho, and then we're going to add some vinegar and some olive oil. Kimberly, do you know why we add the olive oil?
It's a stabilizer.
It is a stabilizer. Most people add tomato juice, and the reason that they add the olive oil is like a mayonnaise. It literally thickens, and it makes it, stops it from separating. We're not using the tomato, so we wouldn't need as much olive oil, but I like the taste, and when we go to serve it, and that's the one thing we're going to have to find is
So
a
we're gonna
cup for
do
us to.
this in between the layers? Or do you
No,
wanna
we do
add
that
it
at the
now?
very end. So you're
Okay.
going to start by just getting these tomatoes
Got it.
in and processing. And with the lid on, because otherwise it is going to
It's going to
spurt.
go everywhere.
It is going to spurt back.
Do you want more than that?
No, I think this is going to probably
Okay.
do it. We're going to see. We can always add some in after. And we're going to use it, and we're going to use the pulse. And that's just to get started. Now she's going to release it, and we're just going to start adding in bunches, and I'll have you do that. Sorry about that. Different
away.
vegetables.
Run away.
I like my gazpacho, and we do have cups somewhere. We're going to have to find one. So they're in the back over there somewhere. Or we'll just pretend. We're going to pour it into something.
Okay.
So now we're going to blend it.
Push down.
And
Do you have
push
a-
down. Now the other thing that you could make with this gazpacho, we don't have 8 items. Remember V8 juice? V8 juice works just as well.
And it's very healthy for you as well. Low sodium, if you prefer.
Low sodium. And I didn't feel like, I'm going to ask Linda to do it. We have a spoon to get 3 garlic cloves out. I didn't feel like peeling garlic today. All right, so not quite yet. Remember I talked about the pico de gallo? This has the spices that I forgot to bring with me in it. So we're going to use
How much?
maybe about a quarter of it.
Okay.
And that should add a lot of spicing. You'll also notice that I'm not giving ratios for this, but basically you want to start, if you can, with about 2 cups of tomato and then start adding in. And this really is going to be to taste. And
That's good. I'll do one more
one
for
more.
good measure.
All right, can you do me a favor?
Yes.
Blend it
Okay. And then you want to,
And then we're going to taste it and see where our taste is. A little bit more.
okay?
All right, stop. We're going to taste for spiciness first, and then we're going to start adding some vinegar and some oil to it. And the garlic. Whoops.
It's
And
almost
that's
there.
going to,
I can
it's
smell
almost
it.
there. It's going to need a lot of salt and pepper. So Linda, if you can give me some salt and pepper. So now we're going to add a little vinegar. And you could use sushi vinegar, but that's sweet. I'm going to suggest some red wine vinegar,
Okay.
some
And
salt.
How much are we, for this size, probably 2 of these?
2 of those. And then we're going to add my almost empty thing of olive oil to it.
Lemon pepper or other?
I like Linda's thinking. We have lemon pepper,
There you go.
so we're going to add some lemon pepper to it
That'll
as well.
Wake up
Use a
the,
fresh lemon
yes.
into my gazpacho too. I like that. Lemony.
Great. And if you can add did you add the red wine vinegar?
I did.
Okay, so then go ahead and
Pulse.
blend it.
Okay.
And then if we have our strainer. All right, so stop. Okay. And here's what I'm going to do.
Add the
I'm going
juice.
to use all the juice from here because I didn't think that it was quite spicy enough. And then Linda, you have a pepper right there. If you could do me a favor and do a seeded pepper. And we don't have lemon, so we're going to
Lime
use
juice works just as well.
some lime juice if we can get this open. Or not. All right, and we're going to taste again, and this is just to taste the salt and pepper. The one thing about gazpacho is that gazpacho needs to sit in the fridge for 2 hours, up to 4 days to really get good.
That's to help marry all of the flavors
And now it's too salty.
from the juice.
It's too salty from the juice.
Okay,
So what
ready?
we're going to do,
That
We're
should
gonna
cut
add-
some of the salt.
it should cut, but we're going to add a couple more tomatoes.
Okay.
So,
There. Leave them whole.
yeah. Well, no, they just need to be cut in half. And that's what I meant for this dish, is to just keep on tasting until it's the taste that you like. And at this point, we're just trying to get a little bit of that saltiness out.
Here's half of the pepper. Do you want the whole?
Okay, we're going to use just a little pepper. All right, and see if that'll do it. The vinegar will also cut a little bit of the saltiness. There we go.
Okay.
The point is, you'll notice that I'm not measuring anything because I am doing this to taste. And I'm going to use a new spoon. Okay. And we'll see if that is close enough. It's getting pretty good.
Okay.
So I think it needs a little bit more pepper.
Great.
And then we're going to stop because it's going to blend. So just let's use the end of it. One more stir. And then this is going to go in the fridge and we're going to taste it later.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
And she should just be able to take this off and take the entire container. We have a
Then I'll
refrigerator
leave it
here
there.
close by, and that's what we're going to do. Now we're going to get another bowl, and Linda is going to help me make farmer's chop suey. So farmer's chop suey, as I said, was a dish that came over from the Eastern European Jews. And the Chinese and the Jews have always had a tremendous relationship, I have to tell you, especially at Christmas time. So as a Jew, that's where you went for Christmas, is to a Jewish or to a Chinese restaurant. But even earlier than that. So the idea of chop suey is whatever you have on hand, and that's what we're doing with the vegetables. one of the things that happened earlier was that Linda chopped a lot of things ahead of time. So my family added sour cream and cottage cheese. And let me get, so Linda, you want to get that in and then blend it? The first recipe for, that was actually in a cookbook for Farmer's Chop Suey was 1934. There was actually a kosher cookbook. And if you know anything about Jews, kosher means that you can't mix meat and dairy. So this became a dairy dish that you could do on high holidays. And then again, we're just going to be adding whatever things that we have that are around. So you want to add just maybe a little handful of red onion, cucumber. What you're really going for in this dish is you're going for crunch. And some radish. And now we're going to need you, while I'm mixing, if you can go ahead, we need you to dice up some tomato. So, and maybe we're going to use the yellow tomato this time. Again, this is a dish that needs to do a little bit of sitting around to fully get the flavor in. But you can tell it took almost no time at all to be able to create. And we're going to add just a little bit, and I'm going to do some chopping. We're going to add just a little bit of green pepper to this as well. And the nice thing is that Kimberly did all of this beforehand. So it was all washed before. Again, whatever vegetables that you have, you put into this. And when it is hot outside, a day like today, this is a dish that you'll see takes, what, less than 3 minutes to make? And especially if you put it in the refrigerator later. And we're going to have you add the tomato. And now if you could add some little of the red tomato as well. So what we're going for, if Sean can show you, is you're also going for as much color as possible. And then we're going to be adding some spices. Now when I was a kid growing up, I think we had something called Mrs. Dash. Was it Mrs. Dash that you grew up with? So I don't have Mrs. Dash. I just realized that this is 24 herbs and spices. I didn't smell it before. I'm not going to use it. And the reason I'm not going to use this is because it's got too much oregano and thyme in it. And it's not the taste that you want. So what we're going to use instead is some lemon pepper. I use lemon pepper for almost everything. It's called lemon pepper. And we're going to use a little salt. We have some salt over there.
Doesn't matter, but if you go to Trader Joe's, they have a grinder version. So it's a little more coarse. Yeah.
Really nice, yeah.
Costco sells a larger container, but that's too much, yeah.
And a fork, so let me taste. I have to tell you, we're over salting because I'm using sea salt. So be careful on your salt. Again, I'm going to ask my other cooking instructor, if you've got too much salt, what would you do? Besides, I could add more vegetables to this to cut the salt a little.
You might want to add a little dash of fresh lemon or lime. That will help cut some of that.
Okay, and we're not going to worry about it too much. I think it was that the lemon pepper actually had some salt in it.
It does. So with your spices, be careful because some do contain salt, even though it says lemon pepper. So when
Yeah,
you read
and
the
that's what I was gonna
label,
say.
even like garlic
I'll have
salt,
you cut some more.
there's a difference between garlic powder and garlic salt. So one is purely granulated garlic that's been dried, ground, and crushed. The other one actually has a salt base to it.
And we're going to let our audience taste all of this later. That's why I brought plenty of spoons, so I'm not using the same spoon each time. And that way you can try it later. But if one of you could get a fork and try it and see how it's tasting. Again, this is going to need to sit for a while. So, Linda, you want to try it?
I'm actually going to try it as well.
Okay. And then we're going to actually move this so people can see. It's good.
Get some of everything in there.
Now, if you don't have sour cream, you can use yogurt, obviously. To me, the cottage cheese, and I do want to call out, yesterday I had the good fortune of doing a talk down in the Delta. Chris Folster is now in his 90s. If you grew up in Sacramento, he had a bait shop on Broadway, around 17th and Broadway. But when I was a kid, his father had Folster's Cottage Cheese Factory. And you could walk and get fresh cottage cheese, and I'm sure that's how my father ended up developing this dish. So I'm going to say thank you very much, Chris Folster, and again, Tom Herzog for this dish. This is another one that we have a cover for. It's better to go into the fridge so that we can taste it later.
Okay.
All right, so our next dish that we're going to do is going to be, we're going to use up some watermelon. And we're going to need to cut some more cucumber. So Linda,
Here,
or me,
Larger.
you'll notice how big some of these cucumbers are. Normally I clean my place in between, but we're not this time. We are going to skin the cucumber this time. So if you could do me a favor and dice some more cucumber.
Sure.
My friend Tom had a watermelon in his garden. This is actually one of the few watermelons that still actually have, excuse me for going off camera, has seeds. And my original intention was to do watermelon with cheese, feta cheese, and some balsamic vinegar or something else, but I forgot the ingredients. So it's going to sound really strange. One of the things you can do is to actually take watermelon and add diced cucumber to it. And then we're going to add just a little bit of balsamic vinegar. And what I just happen to have is a raspberry vinegar. Ooh. And that's going to go on the top. And you'll see what, Linda, I didn't have a potato peeler or a cucumber peeler. So she's just cutting it in half. This is an English cucumber. She's keeping the seeds in, but let me show you a trick. The seeds do get bitter. So one of the things you can just do is to use a knife and literally just cut the seeds out. And it just depends. These just came out of the garden, so I'm not too worried about it. We just add it all together. And I know it's going to sound strange. We would normally add a little green onion. We're going to use not much, but a little red onion. We always smell beforehand. This is raspberry, just to make sure that the smell is going to be good. And I have to tell you, I want to see if they can get a picture of this. What is it? This is watermelon, cucumber, red onion, and a little bit of raspberry vinegar. We aren't going to mix it quite yet, because when you use balsamic, it changes the color of everything. So again, we're just going to let it sit. Now we're going to try another gazpacho. So we have another blender, and this is going to be
Voila.
Remember all those horrible sauces that I told you about? I want to get rid of them. So this is a total experiment. We are literally going to go ahead and we're going to take whatever, we don't need any of the salsa anymore, right? So we're going to use the salsa. We have cucumbers that are left over. We're going to throw the cucumbers in, and then we're going to have Kimberly come up and show you how to cut the watermelon. There we go. And we're going to add a little tomato. So it does sound strange that you'd be using watermelon, but what watermelon does is actually is just sweet. Then she's going to cut some of that, and actually we're going to do 3 or 2. Hold on just a second. We're not going to do the watermelon.
You changed?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I just realized otherwise we would need a container. We're going to do this instead.
What if we left it in the blender? Are you blending it?
It's fine. We're going to use with this. So do you
Okay.
want to come on over and get the lid
Absolutely.
back on? And thank you for letting us be impromptu like this. The whole idea was you get together with friends. You're just trying to use up what is in your refrigerator. That's that lid.
Okay.
And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to blend it up first. Now this is called Chipotle Salsa Cremosa, and I'm going to give it to Linda. Linda, what does it smell like to you?
Where's the blade?
Oh, you didn't put the blade in. Excuse us for just a second.
That would help.
We're going to take everything out. Sorry for being off camera.
You know, I can't place that smell other than tomato.
Back here.
All right, what this smell is, can you take it out to our audience? Ask them if they can tell you what the smell is. What's distinct about this particular sauce? Because you want to know what the sauce is to know how to flavor things.
Small spoon.
Here it is, right here.
Okay.
Hard to say.
Let me come in between you two.
So we're asking our audience,
Salsa.
Cremosa, it's got cream in it.
and what the smell is to me, it's got a really smoky flavor to it
Because of the chipotle.
because of the chipotle. So obviously they roasted the chipotle beforehand. And this time we're going to use a little
Chipotle
white wine
peppers.
vinegar instead.
Is there anything else we're adding before I continue to pulse?
Okay. No, we're going to use this for something else. Alrighty, now we're going to pour this in because, all right, go for it. Let's see what happens.
Blend
And
or
hopefully
pulse?
we don't have to throw it away. Now, okay.
Smoky.
Ooh. I have to tell you, this does not make good gazpacho. But if I had a chicken breast right now
Oh.
and marinated it,
Yeah.
this is going to make the best sauce for chicken sauce, I have to tell you. It'd be
Ooh.
wonderful. You want to
Okay.
taste and see what
Yes.
you do with it?
Let me.
You want me to go
Way
wash
too
them?
hot. Yeah, that is way too hot. Alrighty. Now we're going to do a dish that they're going to have to both start chopping on. And that is we're going to take our, do we have zucchini left?
It has kick.
It has kick.
It has flavor though. And she's right. If you married this with a chicken, made like a chicken and rice dish out of this, it'd be excellent. Excuse me?
So we're going to make, how many of you have had smashed cucumber salad? Smashed cucumber salad in a Japanese restaurant. So this is a dish that I have fallen in love with. We're going to make it a smashed cucumber, and then we're going to do it with the zucchini as well. You'll notice that I'm not taking the skin off of this cucumber. I'm just scoring it. And it is wonderful to have friends that cook so that they can clean behind you, because I am the world's messiest cook. They call it smashed cucumbers, but it's not smashed so much as torn. And if you saw the cooking class the other day, I really want to recommend that you go online and see Kelsey Marr, who did hachapuri, which is torn. So we're just basically tearing
That's interesting.
the cucumber, or cutting it. You want to?
Yeah. I would have cheated,
In fact, we're going to cheat. We're going to do it as a combination of cucumber.
but I would have used my mandolin.
Do you want to show them how to use
Yeah.
a mandolin? So you want to do that with the zucchini?
Sure.
All right. So we're going to do this 2 separate ways. This first one is all cucumber. Excuse the floor from that. And then I have a spice that is a chili spice that I am not seeing here.
So let me just give the backstory on this.
Okay.
So this is well, there goes the guard, but this is a very safe mandolin for use in the home, and it was introduced to me about 10 years ago when we were having a morning coffee anthology meeting, and one of the women who is very adept at preserving and cooking and things of that nature, she would teach students how to use mandolins. It has 3 different levels so that you get 3 thicknesses, and the guard helps to protect your hands from when you're slicing. I'm going to demonstrate without the guard, but it's one of those, don't try this at home, or if you do, use the guard. So it will just give very thin slices, and you can see them falling out. And then you rotate whatever you're slicing so that you get even slices.
But how much would it cost to buy a mandolin?
I have a professional mandolin. It cost me over $100.
Right.
And it's very dangerous.
And how much was that?
This was 15.
Right.
Wow.
So it's wonderful. So
And I keep it in my drawer. It's a go-to. We use it for onions. You can't, and I was actually going to write the manufacturer and ask if they would do a serrated one for tomatoes.
So if you can go ahead and do some more of that zucchini.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. So what I've added to our cucumber, remember I'm trying to use up everything in my pantry. Can I be honest about our relationship?
Yes.
My house is so cluttered. My brother brought home 750,000 items. That Kimberly has been really wonderful. She's going to come down and declutter me, which we hope to get done most of the declutter in a month. But I figured that it could take us a year to get everything done.
We can do it.
But
in
I have a
less.
real problem with my pantry, and it needs to be totally redone. I'm spending too much money on food, so I want to go through everything. So we're going to be creating new dishes.
Okay, so let me just demonstrate. You see how I'm at the very end? What you want to do at this point is just use your palm. It's kind of hard to cut your palm as opposed to a finger. And if it doesn't go all the way through, then I've actually used a knife. But that's what the guard is for.
And what we are using is I'm sorry, I'm going to do plugs. Oto's is by far my favorite store, and going to one of the other Asian markets that are down on Stockton Boulevard. But there are things like this that I just like having around all the time, and this is a crunchy garlic with chili oil. And what I like is that I don't have to keep a lot of things with it. And all we did was to take the cucumber. See if we can get an overhead on this so you can see it. I'm not sure. And then we just added that crunchy garlic to it. And that's it. So now we're
then
going
we're
to get a
gonna blend
bowl
that in.
for here.
Okay.
Let's get
Let
one
me-
more bowl.
What's this one? All right.
So now I'm going to show off all of the bowls today that are these bowls I actually made myself.
Wow.
So I have to tell you, if they ever do one here, I have 2 kilns I'm willing to donate to ACC. Try to take a ceramics class. If you can do some, there's some at E.M. Hart Senior Center. There's other places. There's nothing more fun than making what you're going to serve your food in yourself.
So that's something I didn't know about you.
See?
And those are gorgeous. I was going to ask you where you bought them.
I
Now
made
know
them.
you can throw.
You know,
Guess
I
where
made
you-
them because they are, because they are too thick. Now I'm going to try something new on this one. If you can just do a little oil and vinegar
Absolutely.
in this one.
Red or the white?
Let's
White
use the
vinegar?
white vinegar.
Okay.
And we're out of that oil, so there should have been a second oil around.
There is that, I
All right.
believe.
Okay. And this is an oil. We're going to have to open it. Let's see if Linda can do it. So we're just adding the leftover oil, a little bit of white vinegar. Ah, I like this. This is Nanami Tagarashi, and I have to take off my glasses for this. It has chili pepper, orange peel, sesame seeds, ginger, and other ingredients. So we're just going to use a different topping this time. And did we use up all of our red onions?
I believe they
No,
went
they're right
into
in
there.
They're right in here. All right. So it's got a little bit of the seasoning. This time we're just going to add a little bit of the red onions. And we're going to try a different seasoning and see what the difference
I
is.
use that on my ramen.
Thank you. Do you want to say that out loud to people?
I use that on my ramen when I eat ramen noodles. It's very tasty.
Togarashi?
And that's called Tagarashi.
Togarashi. Huh.
And we'll see if this is going to need any salt. And it will. So a little salt and pepper.
I think the salt is down
Salt
there.
here.
We're going to try to
So-
not overdo it.
Okay, of the salts, because there are a lot.
Okay.
What's your go-to preference? Because in my pantry is Himalayan,
Okay.
kosher, 2 types of kosher.
So do you, the difference is, do you use Himalayan pink salt?
Yes.
So do you
And
want
I
to
prefer
explain
to grind it.
And you prefer to grind it. Kosher salt is what I learned to use, and I didn't know I was Jewish till I was 10, so never cooked at home. But what professional cooks tend to use, because it's a little coarser ground, and also, especially when you're layering flavors when you're cooking, it's better, but it's a little too rough a grind for in person. I like a salt grinder, and whatever salt I can afford, except I don't like the gray salts much.
I like them for meats.
Okay,
do
and did we
steak.
use the?
We did. We probably need more. The
The
ratio
lemon
of
pepper's
vinegar
right
to.
down there too.
Okay, and we're just going to add just a little bit
Okay.
more.
So for me, salt depends on the sodium content. And Himalayan pink salt is around 380 milligrams per quarter teaspoon. And if you ever notice, when people read the label, it's quarter teaspoon, not actual teaspoon. Some of them will tell you by teaspoon. So you have to be careful if you're on a low sodium or restricted salt diet to carefully read that. There's only one salt that I believe, and I think I read that it was maybe 450 per teaspoon, but that's rare.
So what I was going to say is I got this at the Jamestown Olive Oil Company while visiting Kimberly, who lives in
yes.
Pine Grove. What's really nice about this is it's an extra virgin olive oil, but it's got an almost almond, a different taste to it. So I'm going to say the same thing with salts. Play around with vinegars. If you can get small, vinegars so you can just do it. Don't always rely on vegetable oil
Right.
in the other. And we're almost done. We're going to be able to get done for tasting. I do want to tell you that we brought peaches today, but we're not going to use them. But can you show me? I'm going to show you the
Absolutely.
peaches.
And the pears are beautiful.
All right. So these just came out of the orchard. You have to use these up in a day, right? And
They
I
go
can't eat
bad
them fast
quickly,
enough. So do
yeah.
you want to give me the pie shell as well?
Absolutely.
So I'll tell you what I do because I don't want to cook.
Here, let me open that. Did you want to?
We're not going to open
Okay.
it. This is one of those ready crust, graham pie crust that I ended up buying 2 for $1. I'm literally going to, and again, we blanch it to get the skin off. We just do boiling water, drop it in the water, drop a tomato in the water. After about 30 seconds, you can peel it.
The blister.
And then we're just going to cube it, but I don't want to cook it. This is one of 12. This is apricot. 12 jams I think my brother brought home in the last 2 weeks. So I'm literally just going to use the peaches and then the jam, and the jam will be solidified if I put that in the refrigerator or even in the freezer for a little bit. I could do, remember I had the cottage cheese that I could have used. I could do a layer of cottage cheese, sour cream, almost anything on the top of it, and you've got a pie in 3 minutes.
Wow. And no
So
bake.
we're a mess. We're not going to suggest that you ever keep your tabletop this messy. But again, we're going to go over what we did. We have 2 different kinds. Well, we have a gazpacho.
Which I'm going to go retrieve. From
We
the
now
refrigerator.
have a sauce that we can use. You could do enchiladas with that sauce, by the way. So you could do that. You could use a barbecue. We have made a watermelon and cucumber and red onion salad. We have done a smashed cucumber salad, and we've taken our zucchini with tagarashi. There are so many other dishes that you could do with the materials that we have. We have some people in the audience with us today. We would like to invite you to take as much. We have baskets of this still to go. We'd love for you to be able to take the fruits and vegetables that we have today and get cooking at home. So last slide, and we'll say goodbye, because I just want to thank you again for attending. And I don't know if they got this last slide or not, but just in case they didn't, it was just a thank you again to ACC. They are doing wonderful programs like this. Whatever you can to support ACC, watch more of their programs. I want to thank my partners today, Linda Jane, and we lost her again, Kimberly, and thank them very much for cooking with me today. And we hope to do more of this. A program I want to propose for later, I haven't told them yet, is Cooking the Books. So I want to take, we use no recipes today, but I want to go ahead and take some of the best cookbooks from local chefs, and we have a lot of them. We have award-winning chefs that are local that have created books and actually cook out of their books. So thank you so much. Oh, and this was the last one, the Farmer's Chop Suey. So thank you very much and see you soon. Thank you for joining us. Thank you both.
Thank you.